Hi everyone and welcome to another review today from Graz, Austria, here at the beginning of April 2024 from a beautiful spring day. We made our journey through South Europe testing the 24mm 2.8 G by Sony here on my Sony Alpha 7 IV. Very compact, well made and also very light at just 162 grams. It is not a real pancake, but as an always on lens it should be neither too big nor too heavy. The lens hood was included and I bought the ND filter for filming at open aperture on Amazon. It is variable and came with an extra bag. You can find the link to the filter and the lens in the video description. We have an aperture ring on which we can set the aperture from 2.8 to 22 with or without steps, and a focus ring at the front. Actually, I don't care whether I see a green and magenta shimmer somewhere on the edge, as long as I can get rid of it with just one click in Adobe Lightroom. It's the same with vignetting. Of course, there are dark edges with a 2.8 aperture, but these can be removed using the automatic correction in case someone cares. The 24mm 2.8 G also suppresses lens flare quite well. We were in Croatia for you and took these photos and video clips. There's usually a very good reason for blurred photos, and that's the wrong camera settings. If aperture, ISO and shutter speeds are used in the right proportions, everyone should be able to take sharp photos. If you're not familiar with this, I have made a tutorial on this topic on my YouTube channel. Link in the video description. I find the photos on my Sony a7 IV with its 33 megapixel sensor very sharp, and it doesn't really matter if I'm shooting at f2.8 or f8. The photos are sharp wherever I set the focus point. The autofocus in combination with the right camera is also very fast and precise. The older the camera, the less fast the autofocus is. This is particularly noticeable in video mode. Unfortunately, the closest focusing distance of the 24mm 2.8 G is only 24 cm with autofocus and 18 cm with manual focus. The Tamron 24 2.8 for Sony even focuses from 12 cm. The eye tracking worked well on my Sony a7 IV in both photo and video mode. Which brings us directly to the next topic, and that's filming with the 24mm. There's one thing I wouldn't want to be without on any lens these days, and that's the aperture ring. As I always expose manually and fixed shutter speeds are important, an ND filter like this one is a must, especially at fast apertures. For me, the 24mm was a welcome lens for city trips, traveling, nature and even for vlogging. As long as the camera doesn't crop, which it does in 4K 50 and 60 on my Sony a7 IV. Therefore use 4K 25 and 30 frames per second to avoid. As an always-on lens, you basically can't get wrong with the 24mm. Of course, if the closest focusing distance were 12 cm instead of 24, I would have more fun capturing details, for example in nature. The lens is a real blessing for this, whether in the park, in the city or in the countryside. The 84mm degree image diagonal provides a good wide angle, but more on that in a moment. Soon there will be a comparison between the Tamron 24mm 2.8 for Sony and this lens here. Make sure to subscribe before missing any future videos. Despite the 24 cm minimum focusing distance, I was still able to take some great close-up shots. If you're not sure whether you should take a 14mm, 20 to 70mm or a 24mm 2.8, we took some examples. The 14mm is extremely wide. Of course, this means that you can fit a lot on it, but for almost $900 more, you should consider whether you need the 1.8 aperture and 10mm less. There's the 20 to 70 f4 lens. I've been using it for almost 3 months now, and it hasn't been disappointed me at all. A very sharp lens, 4mm more wide angle and a zoom, but no more 2.8 aperture and just $700 more. The 24mm has a 2.8 aperture, is much more compact than the 14 and 20 to 70mm, but is just as limited in its possibilities as a 14mm. With the difference that the aperture is slightly worse, the price is more favorable and is probably more than enough. Due to the compact design, we have only 7 aperture blades, but even these ones ensure a beautiful blur background, whether in photo or in video mode. As an always on lens, a great lens for the city, for a cafe or product photography. Compact, lightweight, $800 cheaper than the 24mm 1.4 G Master, with an aperture ring and a fast autofocus with the right camera. What else do you want? Preferably even less focusing distance, so that I can use this lens in a much more versatile way that I can use it now. Great for the city, traveling, details and nature. But also great for filming. If your Sony is still cropping at 4K 50 or 60 FPS, then definitely keep this in mind if you plan to use this to record yourself. Do you have this lens yourself or a different version? Please leave a comment below. See you soon und tschüss.